Painting what you know is something that I had heard artists talk about before, but it wasn't something that I was particularly keen on doing myself, especially when I first started painting. When I began painting, I just wanted to paint anything and everything. And the idea of restricting myself and just painting what I knew or what I was familiar with just didn't really appeal to me. I felt like I would be limiting myself if I did that, and I wouldn't be able to paint the epic landscapes or the exotic wildlife that I really enjoyed seeing other artists paint. I think when you start, it's nice to paint a variety. In fact, I still like to paint a variety now, but in the beginning, it was nice to be able to paint whatever I wanted. I could practice lots of different subjects and I could figure out what it was I liked to paint. But as time moves on, I find that more often than not, I am drawn to painting the things that I am familiar with. And this series of Artist Diaries really helps me to paint what I know because it gets me out and about in nature where I look for some inspiration and then I choose something to paint from the day. For this week's episode, I am back at a previous location where I've come to a stately home and its surrounding grounds, and it's a lovely January day and we're searching for something to paint for the day. I think one of the reasons I was resistant to the idea of painting what I know or what's on my doorstep is because I thought I would struggle with taking decent reference photos for a painting. I only have my phone for this, so for these videos and also for taking photos for paintings, this is what I use. And it's not quite the same as having a really good camera that you could get great wildlife reference pictures with. So I think that put me off from doing this for a while. There were moments on this day trip where I wasn't able to get the photos that I would have liked or the video footage I would have liked. There was lots of wildlife about. There were these jackdaws up in the treetops. There were lots of other birds in the treetops that I just got silhouettes of. There was a blue tit that flew past too quickly to even see properly on this video. And in this clip here, what you will see is an outline of a very blurry bird. This is a grey wagtail and it would have made a really nice painting, but this is as good as the video footage got. And although that's not ideal and it definitely put me off painting what I know in the first place, it's not something that I feel too bad about now. In fact, I think it helps me with my paintings because it means I've got to think outside the box a little bit and look further afield for my painting inspiration. Usually wildlife will be out of the question because they don't tend to come close enough to get a nice enough picture to paint from. And really large landscapes often don't make the cut either because it would take too long to paint them. And the idea for this series is that the paintings are just supposed to be studies and they're only supposed to take 2 to 3 hours, although occasionally I do forget that. So I have to really think about what I will be able to paint from my day trip, but also what I want to paint that will really help get across exactly what it was like on that location. For this painting, I definitely struggled to decide on a subject. It wasn't immediately obvious what I was going to paint and I had to spend a little bit of time thinking about it. I did really want to paint this swan. It was one of my highlights from the trip. However, the last time I visited this location, I painted this swan, and I'm pretty sure I painted it in the exact same position. And as beautiful as it was, I decided I couldn't paint it again because it would just be the exact same painting twice in a row. I really had to talk myself out of doing that. But there is a previous Artist Diaries where I do paint this swan. So if you want to see that, then you can watch a previous video and see this anyway. So with the swan painting idea rejected, I decided that the next best thing that I saw on that day was the sunlight, the winter sun hitting the trees and how beautiful it looked while we were walking through the wood. And so I decided to take a section of this tree and include that in my painting for today. I do want to point out that I will still use royalty-free references for some of my paintings, and occasionally I will paint something that I have zero connection with just because I think it would make a nice painting. I do think it's nice to paint a variety of subjects, but I am becoming increasingly drawn to painting things that I do have a connection to or that are a bit more familiar to me. When I came up with the idea to do this video, it made me think about what it is about painting what I know that I enjoy so much, so that I could share my reasoning with you while we watch this painting come together. So I've come up with 3 reasons why I enjoy doing this, but if you can think of any more, if you like to paint what you're familiar with or what you know, then feel free to add those in the comments underneath. But here is my first point. So by painting what I know or what I love, I get to spend more time doing the things that I enjoy. And it's really as simple as that. I love nature, I love being outdoors, and if I want to paint local landscapes or if I want to paint wildlife, then I have to actually get out in nature and see these things for myself so that I can paint them. When we have busy lives, I think it's quite easy for our hobbies and interests to get sidelined a little bit. But by painting what I know, it gives me a great excuse to get outside, to be surrounded by nature, and to spend the time doing the things that I enjoy. And that brings me nicely to point number 2, and that is that by painting what I know, it really helps me to appreciate the subject so much more. I think as artists, we can see the world a little differently. I know that when I'm looking at subjects because I want to paint them, I'm definitely noticing them in a different way than I would if I was just passing by. For example, if I want to paint wildlife, let's say I want to paint a bird, then I will go out and I will look for that bird and I will watch how it moves and I will listen to it and I'll see how it interacts with its surroundings, whether it travels in a flock or whether it's by itself. I will look to see how the sunlight is hitting its feathers and what kind of colours that brings out. It will cause me to spend more time with the common species, which usually I wouldn't give a second glance to because they are such a part of the scenery that I barely notice them. But when I'm painting what I know and I am painting the wildlife that I know, I'm encouraged to spend more time with it, to really sit with it and to notice it and appreciate it in a way that I never would do otherwise. And the same goes for painting landscapes. I will spend longer in a landscape when I know I want to paint it because I feel like I've got to try and absorb everything about it so I can put it across in my painting. I want to listen to all the sounds. Can I hear birds calling or other wildlife? Is there water running? Is the sunlight hitting the ground a certain way? What colours is that bringing out? Is it cold or am I way too warm? Is there a certain atmosphere that I would like to portray in my painting? So yeah, painting what I know definitely helps me to appreciate and notice the subject a lot more. And that brings us to the third and final point of why I like to paint what I know. And I think it might be my favourite of the 3. And that is, I think it really helps you to find your audience when you paint what you're familiar with and what you know. If you're painting something that is meaningful to you or that you care about, there's a good chance that your audience also cares about the same subject. Don't get me wrong, I still get to have really good conversations when I paint something random, but it's usually more to do with the art, where we're talking about technique or color or something to do with the painting itself. But when I paint this kind of thing, or when I paint something that I'm familiar with, then I get to talk about the actual subject. And I really get so much out of that and I really enjoy it. It provides an opportunity to talk about wildlife or what I love about nature or being outdoors or the changing seasons. I get to hear about other people's wildlife experiences or what they like about a particular season. And I love talking about nature. It's a great conversation to have. So I think when you paint the things that you know, it really gives you the opportunity to talk about something that you really care about. Artist Diaries are not the most popular video that I make, but they are one of my favourite videos to make. It's really lovely to be able to get out into nature, to be amongst the things that I really enjoy and to choose something from the day to paint and then to go home and paint it. It's also really nice to be able to talk about it in these videos and then to hear your feedback as well and hear your nature experiences. So I think that this is something that I will continue to do, and I definitely see value now in painting what you know or what you're familiar with. But I would also be really interested to hear your perspectives on this as well. So if you are artists and you've watched so far into this video, let me know if you prefer painting what you know or if you like to paint a variety and you just want to paint anything and everything, which is definitely what I wanted to do when I first started. So I think I'm going to wrap up on that subject for now. We're coming towards the end of the video, and so I thought I'd spend a little bit of time just talking about the painting because I've kind of ignored that up until now. But as usual, I painted this onto a 6x8 inch piece of oil painting paper. I did grid the paper this time just because the limbs of the branches were frustrating. I tried to do this painting once before and failed miserably. This was my second attempt, and so that is why I decided to go with a grid this time. I started out by drawing an outline in burnt sienna, and then I did a very rough underpainting where I just loosely put on the colours that I wanted and blocked things in. I then went over it again, and I ended up using quite a small brush to detail some of the branches. It wasn't my intention to do it this way, but when I tried it the first time around and I tried to be more expressive, I just made a little bit of a mess, and so I tried to be a bit more careful this time around. It definitely highlighted some areas for improvement. I would like to be able to get this kind of style but without having to paint every single area. Just to be able to do this more expressively with larger brush strokes would be nice. I'd also like to make a little bit more of the highlighted areas on the branches because ultimately that is what this painting was about. And although you can see the shadows and you can see some of the highlights, I think it would be nice to really push that a bit further and to take the painting beyond what was just in the picture. I think what's quite nice about doing these studies is it gives you an opportunity to practice something different almost every time you do them, and then it gives you an idea of what you might need to improve on if you wanted to do a bigger or more formal painting of a similar subject. I definitely have lots of areas to work on if I want to paint more trees in the future, but this was a really nice starting point. I tried to simplify the tree a little bit and I didn't put in all of the twigs and branches in the background. I also reduced some of the bigger branches in the foreground just because I didn't think they were completely necessary for this painting to work. I also decided to add in some squirrels, which I'd seen on another tree while I was out for the day. So there we have it, a tree with dappled sunlight and 2 little squirrels. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you like the painting. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. I'm already thinking of new locations for the next Artist Diaries, and I'm looking forward to making more videos in this series. I hope you're enjoying watching them because I am really enjoying making them. So thanks again for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you next time.